Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack world events with the precision of a sushi chef and the grace of a drop tempura. Today, we're diving into Japan's political waters to discuss Sanae Takaichi, who's poised to become Japan's first female prime minister after winning the LDP leadership. That's right, Japan might finally let a woman run the show, just a few decades behind schedule, but hey, progress is progress. And we know, we've been off the air for a bit. Our fearless producer, FireflyHaku, was busy relocating from Asia to North America. Turns out, moving an entire podcast studio across the Pacific takes more time than rebooting Japanese bureaucracy. But now that he's settled in, we're back, stronger, sassier, and caffeinated enough to tackle global politics with our trademark mix of humor and mild disbelief. Okay, so let's start with the scale of this achievement. To really get it, you have to understand Japan's political landscape. Forever, it's been one of the most male-dominated in the entire developed world. So Takaichi's victory isn't just a political shift. It's more like a cultural earthquake. I mean, this isn't just a headline. Her win absolutely shatters what the Lowy Institute calls the ultimate glass ceiling in Japanese politics. For decades, the job of prime minister has been totally off limits to women, which makes this a truly historic moment. And here's some context that makes her ascent even more incredible. Get this. She's stepping into a system where women make up just 16% of parliament. 16%. That number puts Japan way down at the bottom of the global rankings for political gender equality. So you're probably wondering, how did this happen? Well, Takaichi's rise wasn't just about her own ambition. It was really born from a massive political crisis that basically brought the ruling Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP, to its knees. The whole opportunity really opened up because of the spectacular downfall of the previous prime minister, Shigeru Ishiba. I mean, he led the LDP to a disastrous string of defeats, losing the party's majority in both chambers of the Diet in the 2024 and 2025 elections. That hadn't happened since 2009, and the internal pressure just got so intense that he had no choice but to resign. And the aftermath of all that, it left the LDP severely weakened, just clinging to power as a minority government. This created a huge political vacuum and a desperate need for a new leader, someone who could restore voter confidence and signal a really bold change in direction. And into this chaos walks Sanae Takaichi. She is a seriously complex and formidable figure. She gets compared to Margaret Thatcher all the time, who, by the way, she herself calls a role model. So to really understand her politics, the first thing you have to know is that she is a direct political heir to the late and hugely influential Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. As his protege, she proudly carries the torch for his conservative nationalist ideology. And when we say nationalist, we mean a hawkish nationalist stance. The most obvious example of this is her regular visits to the very controversial Yasukuni Shrine, the one that honors convicted war criminals among Japan's war dead. It's a move that consistently infuriates neighbors like China and South Korea. But here's where her story takes a twist. Her profile totally defies any simple box you try to put it in. Before she ever got into politics, she was a drummer in a punk rock band. Yeah. And she's also an avid motorcyclist. It's a pretty surprising backstory that clashes big time with Japan's stuffy, traditional political image. Okay, this is where Takaichi's story gets really, really interesting. Her rise brings up this key paradox for gender equality in Japan. She's breaking one of the highest barriers for women, while, at the same time, she's reinforcing some pretty traditional social structures. So on the one hand, Takaichi is this powerful symbol of female leadership. She's even pledged to appoint more female ministers. But then you look at her actual policy positions on gender, and they're deeply conservative. For instance, she's against really popular reforms like letting married couples have different last names, or allowing women to ascend to the imperial throne. As the Observer Research Foundation puts it, her rise really highlights this strange paradox of a woman leading Japan's conservative establishment, while at the same time resisting the kind of social liberalization that her own success seems to represent. It's a real head-scratcher. But look, becoming prime minister, that's just the start. Takaichi is inheriting a party in total crisis and a nation facing absolutely monumental challenges. And it's sparking fears of a return to Japan's revolving door era, where leaders were getting swapped out basically every year. So her economic playbook is basically a return to that Abenomics-style stimulus. She calls it crisis management investment. The idea is to pour government money into key sectors:
energy, food, semiconductors, to build up national resilience. The problem? Japan's public debt is already sitting at around 250% of its GDP. So yeah, it's a pretty high-risk strategy.
And beyond the economy, her to-do list is just immense. She has to restore her party's image after a wave of corruption scandals, stabilize U.S. relations, which is always tricky, and somehow figure out how to govern now that her party's longtime coalition partner, Komeito, just walked out the door. The task ahead is gigantic, and you can bet the world will be watching to see if Japan's Iron Lady can actually forge a new path, or if she'll just be consumed by the same forces that brought down her predecessor. So subscribe, folks. The Deep Dive is where news meets nonsense, and FireflyHaku makes sure it still sounds professional.